Hey everybody!
What's up?
So, it's a big one, Sean.
It is.
We do think this is our. We never did 7, but we did Rogue One.
7 kind of pissed me off. This one kind of pissed me off too. But
so-
not for the reason a lot of people are saying. For entirely different reasons.
Alright, we went and saw Star Wars Episode 8, Last Jedi.
We saw this separately.
Yes. I was at work and I kept having people too close to me, like starting to spoil it. I even yelled at customers in the bathroom to stop spoiling it because they walked in and they're like, man, at the end, when he pulls out his light, and I was like, no spoilers. I haven't seen it yet. Quit. My boss thought it was hilarious, though. So.
Probably. This movie was, I would say, about 75% really good filmmaking and about 25% corporate overlordship saying, put this in because we need the brand recognition. Because there's a lot of really good scenes in here. Do we want to do recommendations right now? And
yeah, let's do...
go into spoilers?
Yeah.
Okay, how would you recommend this?
I would say go see it. Now, I would say definitely, like, you're going to want to go on a day that's probably not going to be the busiest.
Right.
Like, I'm going to say catch this on, like, just to avoid people altogether and people ruining your experience. Because I was in a packed auditorium.
Well, we're about a week out now, nearly, from when this movie came out. So
I'd say...
I don't think that's too big a necessity for trying to keep out of that.
Well,
if you haven't had it spoiled for you yet, there's a strong chance you've steered clear of everybody spoiling for you as it is. So I too would recommend probably a matinee showing if you're really hell-bent on seeing this. That being said, I would honestly spring for the 3D. It's not nearly as obnoxious as it was in like Rogue One.
Oh, you saw it in 3D?
I did get a 3D show.
Okay, I saw it in 2D.
I did see it in 3D, and there's a wonderful scene near the end, which needs some tight compression, and 3D actually lends itself well to that.
Okay.
So you really kind of feel clogged up. You really feel confined. I kept wanting to say congested.
I think I'm going to have to go see it in 3D now.
I kind of wanted the kids that were in the audience to be congested because then they would probably shut up.
Alright, so we're both saying, you say matinee, I'm just saying see it in general, but...
I would say a matinee.
I'd say, like,
it's good, it's not super fucking epic. But
I'd say catch it, well, this thing's going to be in theaters a while, catch it early in the morning or late at night, when... Because, like, your 7 o'clock hour, it's going to be a bunch of people, and it's going to get on your nerves.
Yeah.
I saw this thing, like, the third day it was out, in a packed auditorium, and it was just like, I don't like being near people, though, like a lot of people, though.
You're so antisocial, Jared.
No, it's...
We have to train this out of you.
No, it's like I'm very anti-stupid, so...
But that's antisocial nowadays. So, there's the recommendations. If you want no spoilers, go see the movie like that. So, spoilers in 3, 2, 1. I, for one, thought it was very, very odd for Rey's parents to be revealed as Chewbacca having an orgy with the Porg. But I have to say, the sex scene was very tastefully done.
What? What the fuck?
Really worked well.
Did you see, like, a bad porno, or what?
You really just cannot run with a joke, can you? So, Rey's parents are never truly revealed. I like that idea. I like that a lot. I'm going to go ahead and get all the positives I have out of the way. This movie was really, really great cinematically. It was shot really well. It differed enough from the usual Star Wars junk that it kind of felt like it could break away from its own self.
That's why.
And kind of its own fan base. A lot of people have been saying that upon reflection, like Episode 7 had to be a retread of Episode 4 in order for this to be such a huge breakaway, but I wholeheartedly disagree. You could tell your own story.
Yeah.
And you could still tell this story as it does. Because there are things that happen off screen.
Yes.
That it really wouldn't have mattered in the end. But I will completely say I'm not unhappy I saw it, but at the same time I could take it or leave it.
So
I thought the what else did I like about this movie? I like the fact that they had a practical effect Yoda.
yeah.
It was good to see that old Muppet busted out and see Frank Oz, or hear Frank Oz while seeing this little puppet move around, and I'm like, that's so nice. After 3 movies of CGI Yoda jumping around going lightsaber fighting, it was nice to see a little puppet Yoda just kind of sit there and espouse wisdom.
Some of the
it looked good too.
The crystal creature things were animatronic too. They weren't all CG.
Oh, the little crystal doggos things?
Yeah. There were a lot of those that were and some of the thing on the planet where Finn and the other girl went.
Yeah.
Like they actually took the time to make
they built large scale animatronics for like the cat horse things that they ride around on.
So my biggest thing about this is I was so happy they didn't do what I thought they were doing at first.
Oh.
So the whole movie, Kylo Ren and Rey are going like back and forth, talking to each other through the Force.
Yes.
And the only other characters we've ever seen really do that was Luke and Leia. And they were showing us Luke and Leia doing that.
I would say Luke and Vader were the only two that really did that.
Well, him and Leia kind of did it, but it was at the point where I was like, they are going to try to say they're brother and sister, and they are about to rip off Jenna like they ripped off Jason.
Yeah, no, I really thought they were going to do that, and then...
But then, like, the whole time, Snow was like, no, that was me. I connected you two. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, and then after Ben betrays Snoke in a pretty badass fashion, I have to admit, he starts going on as like, you know who they were. You knew the whole time, didn't you?
Yeah.
They were just a bunch of fucking losers who left you to die on a planet. They're probably in an unmarked grave out there on Jakku.
I really like that. Like
I was just sitting there like, yeah, I'll work with that. That was nice.
Like
it's kind of a deep sting too.
Like there's so much. I think the director and the writers knew that, you know, there's so many fan theories and stuff like that. You know, sometimes
I've been seeing so many various fan theories bandied about the most inconsequential bullshit, and I'm just like, I'm kind of sorry I'm a part of this fan base at this point.
I liked how they were like, you know what, you know, you really sometimes a person's just a person. There's nothing extraordinary about their past. They don't have to be connected to somebody. Like the Force just happens in some people. There are plenty of
which, if you missed that, don't worry. It's there at the end with the little boy who brings the sweeper broom to him and holds it like a saber.
Yeah.
I was just sitting there and I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, really? And the dog really wants out. I don't know if that's going to pick up.
No.
He really wants out. But yeah, this movie just... It's like this close to being almost perfect Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Where it almost divorces itself entirely from the slavish devotion to the original product and tried to be its own thing so hard.
Yeah.
But there's just those little anchors that hold it down, that just constantly grip it from taking flight on its own.
I really kind of like the fact that, you know, they didn't... Snoke was not secretly somebody else. He was just some, like, douchebag evil Force user.
Yeah,
he got chopped in half, and fuck him, he's dead.
He's a giant CGI monster.
Yeah, it's like, screw you, you're dead.
Can we take a second to say, I'm sick and tired of CGI monsters.
Yeah.
Justice League had a giant CGI monster. Star Wars has a giant CGI monster. Avengers is going to have a giant CGI monster. For God's sake, we put Tim Curry in a bunch of fucking makeup and made him look like the goddamn devil years ago, in the 80s. You're so proud of your fucking practical effects. You can't get a guy in like some animatronics and just have him like sit there and stand. He doesn't do a whole lot.
No, not really.
I mean, the biggest thing he does is he gets up and walks towards her, and then that's it. And it's just like, really?
It really doesn't seem like it would have been that hard. I mean,
look
at like what they did with the Emperor and all the old movies. Like, you know, that's practically, you just need to make a messed up face a little bit.
Right. Well, if you go from like Empire and Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring Ian McDermott back in. He'll play an evil bad guy. He'll sit there and go, "No, Ray, I got you in bed solo to leak minds. Because I'm evil as fuck."
I really I didn't have much of a problem. Like, I don't understand. There's a lot of like love coming out for it, but I'm also like I'm nerdiest of fanboys.
I'm definitely not getting
mad.
hate for this movie, but that might be because I'm not like super slavishly devoted to how this thing I think should work, and I'm open to reinterpretations. And like I say, I actually enjoyed a lot of what this movie offered. But like I say, there are just those little things like the lightsaber. Lightsabers have to be in the movie. I was honestly very impressed that they showed as much restraint as waiting an hour and 15 minutes into the movie before showing a lightsaber actually flick on.
Well, we didn't get too much. Like,
they got dangerously close to prequel levels of lightsaber fights, but they still look kind of grounded when Rey and Kylo Ren are fighting, and they're actually using like sword maneuvers where they're just kind of twisting and bending.
Yeah, that was the only.
That was kind of nice.
That was the only major scene with lightsabers in it, though. You know what?
No, the first time they crack one on, it's for a training montage, and she slices over a rock.
Yeah.
And it's like, really? We needed this?
Well, I love how like everyone like in the first one, like she hands it to Luke and he's like throws it back.
I wanted so much more grumpy Mark Hamill in this. The first time he teaches her to try and access the Force, reach out, and she lifts her hand out and he takes his little stick and he's like, "You feel that? I feel it! I feel it! It's the Force! That's the Force! You feel it? I feel it! Try! Ah!" It's just like, can I have more of him, please? I was so delighted with Mark Hamill being an asshole to her. I actually kind of enjoyed them trying to bring him back out of retirement because it did present an interesting challenge in trying to tell what happened, and they kind of used the certain point of view motif again, but how Luke sees that as like a bullshit excuse.
Yeah.
And he still blames himself. Versus like Obi-Wan, who said, "Well, I told you, well, it's technically true. Even if I'm a giant asshole for not telling you Darth Vader was secretly your dad." Might be. But I really liked how he pretty much shut himself off from the Force. And he had been living without it, they said. Which was, and he was just like, you really think I came out here to the ass end of nowhere where nobody was fucking looking for me because I wanted to? You're insane. I'm not going back. And he doesn't, actually. I was actually really happy about that. That being said, before we get into the ending Force scene, can we talk about the other Force scene?
Are we talking about Leia?
We're going to talk about Leia flying through space after being decompressed off a bridge. I almost started laughing in the theater. It's so stupid.
I was very, what the fuck-ish. I was like, We've never established she can do that.
There was...
If you can use the Force like that...
Like, if I hadn't seen that happen, like somebody spoiled that, I accidentally looked that up, I had seen that in the theaters, I would probably go out and question whether or not they put acid in my Coke.
I didn't know what the fuck I was watching when I saw that. Because, here's my thought.
Okay.
If you can do that
right,
with the Force, the fuck you need to send your kid to train with your brother for? You're just as good.
Apparently, but she was like, I'm busy.
Oh.
Han's gonna stick it in my pooter again. He's gonna chewy my baka.
Wow. I can't believe you just went there.
Oh, believe me, I will. No, they do some pretty interesting things. Benicio del Toro's character, for as much as they kept talking about, Benicio del Toro's in this movie, Benicio del Toro's in this movie, and just how much of a nothing character he turns out to be.
Yeah.
I thought it was a complete waste of Benicio del Toro. They could have just as easily gotten some unknown in there, or some rando.
So, my biggest question was with that going on, so they meet him and they just all of a sudden give up on trying to get the other guy that they went there for?
I guess.
I kept wondering, is this the guy? Did he lose?
That was my first instinct as well. I was like, oh, did he just go into prison and be like, oh, these are people who are trying to meet me, probably. And he ended up, but it turns out it's like, no, it's just this rando.
That, like, completely just can get super smart. That doesn't...
He's a really good hacker.
So it's like, you went after a certain person, probably one of the most knowledgeable people in the galaxy,
right?
Tells you to go get, and you meet some other random asshole. You're like, oh, we'll use him instead.
Right.
The fuck are you thinking?
I don't know, but I kind of like that at first because it's like, sometimes plans don't go to plan. You gotta adapt, adopt, improve. And I kind of like that. The bit where they're on the ship and he's seeing is like, well, let's see who this guy initially was, and he pulls out, he's like, an arms merchant, and he sold weapons to the Empire, and then he starts pulling up like X-wings, and it's like, oh, but he also sold weapons to the good guys.
Yeah. And
it was kind of that gray area that Star Wars rarely seems to inhabit well. And I thought this one did it very, very well for just a brief moment in that not everything is black and white, cut and dry, rooted in good and evil. There's always the gradient, or the gray area that the rest of the world lives in. But in the end, it's just like, oh, yeah, and he's like, don't have any alliances. That's the best way to live. But in the end, he's like, oh, yeah, I cut a deal with him later.
The thing I think I liked most about the movie is it wasn't even like with Rey and the Jedi stuff. I really enjoyed Poe and Finn in this. Because Poe was just kind of like...
Tumblr's going to be mad. Tumblr is going to be super duper mad because they gave Finn a chubby Asian girlfriend. So he can have a case of the not gays. And I guess Poe can still get his hands on a ball or two.
He's got BB-8 there.
I wonder how many external sockets BB-8 can produce.
He was
just saying, they seem to have a pretty good interconnection, if you catch my drift.
Damn it.
Look, I'm not here to judge. If a man wants to love a droid, a man can love a droid. It's a free galaxy. He can do what he wishes.
We're getting off topic here, John. I'm on a time frame today. Remember?
I know. But yeah, I guess let's go ahead and talk about the ending, where they finally, after 3 different confrontations at this point, come down to the confrontation between the rebellion and the First Order.
Yep.
Which, in order to talk about that, I have to talk about the beginning of this movie, where at the end of The Force Awakens, you have the rebellion or the resistance or whoever blow up the new Death Star, and it's like, okay, First Order's on the ropes. The next movie is going to be about the resistance building up more strength to go after them and pursue them, and probably the First Order being the ones on the defensive and having to run away. But then it's like, oh yeah, Snoke gained, he took over everything off screen.
Yeah.
And the First Order rule the universe now. And it's like, when did this happen? And how did you get this kind of leverage? Because none of it makes sense. But apparently the resistance has been whittled down to this small group that you're with for the majority of the movie. And, oh shit, no, I gotta talk about Poe a little bit because he pissed me off like hardcore. So at the beginning of the movie, Poe Dameron is in command of this whole squadron of people. And Leia tells him, is like, alright, we've got all the transports away, everybody's breaking off. Get your crews back here so the rest of us can go. And he's like, no, I'm gonna destroy this fleet killer vessel. And he ends up losing, like,
the entire goddamn
damn near
fleet.
his entire squadron, which is like 4 bombers, 3 A-wings, and at least 1 X-wing, I think, was on the table. So that's
They were more than that.
It was a grand total of like 30 or so people.
Yeah, he
sparsed out between all them, and it was all done to destroy like 1 ship, and then like Snoke's ship pops in, and I was just like, oh look, a giant ship that they could really use some bombers against. Bet you feel stupid now.
I did.
But at the sorry,
I enjoyed this one mostly being in space though.
It did lend itself
really...
a bit to space opera in this, rather than in space opera.
Like, we never really, like, in most of the Star Wars movie, most of the things that happen take place on some random-ass planet that is there for convenience and storytelling. And this was like, no, we're in space, we're running out of fuel, and we're probably about to fucking die.
Right. But, yeah, then Snoke's ship shows up and they're running out of fuel because they were able to track them through hyperspace.
Yeah.
Which apparently is a big deal to them because they're like, oh my god, nobody's ever done that before. And they're like, oh yeah, it's totally doable. Like, one person pops in and, like, a nobody pops in and just like, yeah, it's something they can do. They simplified something big. And it's like, where the fuck can't the military minds think of this then? But then they decide, well, let's send 2 of our people out and get a thing where we can infiltrate their shields and shut down their tracking thing. And let's do this without telling the military commanders.
Yeah,
because she's not telling me everything that I want to know, and I want to go out and fight them, but I don't have any ships really. And so it's like, you're kind of a terrible officer, Poe Dameron.
Yeah. So
when she finally busts him down and tells him, like, look, I've got a plan. Shut the fuck up, alright?
Yeah, I liked her, like, I like Poe, like, thinking he was doing what was best, but then...
See, that was something that bothered me so bad, because this is supposed to be somebody who's highly placed in the rebellion, or the resistance, or whatever. And this should be somebody who understands that when somebody higher up than him says, hey, don't worry about this, we're working on something, thinks, okay, let's play this by ear. And yeah, you could argue, it's like, oh, he did play it by ear, and he didn't see what they were doing. And it's like, yeah, but he's also supposed to be this really smart strategist type guy.
I thought, I thought he was, like, the way I interpret it, though, is like he is trying to think about like everybody, but like Leia and all them were thinking about everybody and how to get everybody away.
Right.
He is so fucking just narrow-minded on trying to win.
Right. Well, that was kind of that was kind of where I found him at odds with like his character that was sort of set up in episode 7, where he was very much this guy who was like, okay, I'm gonna have to lay low for a little bit. Maybe I'm gonna have to work with a guy from the First Order. But right now the game is survive. Like that was his deal pretty much in episode 7.
Yeah.
Was make it through the end, do what has to come next.
Actually, his character was supposed to die.
Right.
And they wrote him, like, they just wrote it that, no, he got out of the
off screen. He got out off screen. That's Star Wars' biggest advantage. Oh, he did it some other time. That'll be in the Poe Dameron Solo movie. That'll come out in between Star Wars 9 and Star Wars 12. But yeah, all the while this is going on, Poe's standing there is like, we've got to fight them, I've got to beat them, I've got to win. And it's like, dude, shut the fuck up, alright? I'm not a military strategist, and I understand what the fuck's going on with this, because he sees her fueling up the transports. And I'm like, oh, okay, so they're going to use that as an escape, because this giant, slow, lumbering vessel is running out of fuel, and it's going to be dead in the water soon. So they can then use those transports to escape more.
Yeah.
Because you don't really have a large functioning military section now. But then he's just like, oh, you're just a coward, you're running away. I'm like, fuck off.
Shut up, Poe.
I was really kind of pissed off about that. And I was really happy when Leia came in and stun blasted his ass.
I thought Finn more, like, I think I enjoyed Finn's fight scene probably more than Rey's.
I don't know. At this point,
I mean, that was a fun fight scene. Like
I never really felt any tension between those fights because they're the main characters, so I know they're not going to die.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's just like, okay, so you're just buying time until the next explosion takes out Phasma, which, yeah, thanks for bringing her back. She contributed a lot.
She did more than she did in the first movie.
Which still wasn't a whole hell of a lot.
She was there to get thrown in a garbage chute.
And in this one, she was here to get thrown into a fiery pit.
Yep.
So, in both movies now, somebody who was really, really talked about and was like, oh, this person's really badass. She's super cool. He's basically there to go, I'm in the movie. I'm leaving the movie. And that's it.
Yeah, she's one of those names.
But it's like Benicio del Toro. At this point, it's just like, this could have been anyone. You just got this person, so you could say you got this person.
Okay.
But
was I the only one who noticed that the redhead guy in the First Order basically just became like the butt of everybody's joke?
Hux, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, let's face facts, with a name like Hux, you're gonna get teased.
Yeah.
Or tooled, in this case.
I thought
as the kids say.
When he found Ren, Kylo, knocked the fuck out. I thought I saw something. But I guess I didn't. I thought I saw him, pull back his cloak.
Oh, he did.
And was he going for,
He was gonna shoot him.
I thought it looked like a lightsaber to me.
No, it was a gun.
Okay.
It was a gun. At least I'm pretty sure it was a gun. He swings open his cloak and starts to reach for his blaster, and then Kylo Ren gets up and he's just like, I'm glad you're alive, sir. I totally wasn't about to murder you while you were unconscious. And actually end this war because you're a psychotic cartoon character.
Yeah, now
that only wants to.
I really don't know where they're gonna go because now Kylo Ren is in charge, but he was so much like, I got very Anakin Episode 3 vibes.
Yeah, that's one of the things
We can roll it together. Like, that was almost the same goddamn speech Anakin gave.
And his super childish fits that he throws whenever something doesn't happen the way he thinks it should.
But he gave, like, the same speech to Rey that Anakin gave to Padme.
Right.
It's like, we could overthrow him, and it's like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, no, shut up. But, yeah, that brings us to the final fight on not Hoth.
No.
Which, some of it was pretty well done. Like, the handycam in the trenches, shaking around while the laser blasts are flying, and you see the people going up over trying to shoot at it.
Yeah.
I really liked that. It kind of had like a Saving Private Ryan feel to it, where it was very gritty, very grounded, and was something I would have liked to have seen more of. And was one of those things where I'm like, God, if this could just break away from all these other trappings that are holding it, it could add. This movie would absolutely be awesome. But in the end, Luke shows up, and like the second he shows up, they have brown-haired Luke and trimmed mustache.
Before we talk about that, though,
okay,
I didn't understand why the girl would. I know it's because Finn's the main character, but he was willing to die to blow that thing up.
Well, that's part of what I'm saying that holds this movie back, is that they have to be beholden to these certain tropes, like, oh, the main characters can't die. And I was just like, he could have stopped the Death Star cannon by flying his ship into it. That would have been a noble sacrifice, and it's like, that would have been a really great send-off for him.
I was down for that happening.
But it's like, no, we won't beat them by destroying what we hate. We'll beat them by saving what we love. And I'm just like, oh, fuck off.
And then you, like you said, Luke shows up, he's trimmed and shaven and...
Yeah, and at that point, immediately I was like, oh, okay, so he's doing a force projection.
Oh, I didn't think it was at that point I didn't catch it. I was thinking, oh, maybe he did really come back. But
did he stop by Space 7-Eleven and get some Just for Men?
Maybe.
And he trimmed up and got the gray out. And then walked out there and he's like, hey, Ben, I found my blue lightsaber.
That's when I knew something was up. Because that lightsaber was destroyed.
That's when you didn't catch on?
Trying to go a different direction with it.
No, I 100% knew. Like, when he showed up, it's like, okay, so he's a force spirit and he's gonna keep going. For a split second, I thought maybe I was wrong when they opened fire on him. And this giant red mist sprays everywhere. And I was like, that got extraordinarily violent for a second. Because I could have sworn they had this blob. And it's just like, if that was blood, I will be genuinely impressed. Oh, there's one thing I really wanted to mention about things being held back. I'm sorry to derail for just a second. But, like, there's one part in particular where they're on this salt planet. And it's all white, and it's very obviously homaging Empire with the Hoth battle, because that was what everybody was saying. It's like, oh, they're redoing the Hoth. It's going to be the Hoth fight with the AT-ATs, and the rebels in the base and all that, and the trenches. It's going to be Hoth. But then you have somebody reach over, stick his finger on the thing, salty. I'm just like, what does it fucking matter? It doesn't matter if this is snow or salt. You're paying homage to one of the greatest Star Wars movie, the greatest Star Wars movie ever. We don't need it rubbed in our face saying, this isn't Hoth. Let me take your hand so you can sure follow it.
I think...
But then they drag the fight between... Sorry, getting back to the fight. But they drag it out between Luke and Kylo Ren for so long. And they keep showing like close-in shots of him not moving through the salt and everything. And how he doesn't leave a trace. And I'm just like, okay... Mentally retarded, blind, deaf people understand that this isn't actually Luke there at this point.
Yeah.
Let's move on And they keep going for like 5 or 10 minutes, and at that point I was just like, ah. And then finally Kylo Ren slides through him, and I'm like, congratulations, you've caught up to literally everybody else on the planet at this point. Children without electricity in Ethiopia understand what's happening faster than you do.
I think they were trying to give it the whole Ben Kenobi sacrificing himself kind of feel.
Right, but it didn't make any sense because you already understand, okay, you've already established this is how Kylo Ren remembers Luke because it's the last time he saw him.
Yes.
So having it further look like that just establishes this is not Luke. But then they drag it out for so long, it's just like, fucking, it's a distraction. They get out of the cave, whatever, let's go. I've been sitting in this fucking seat watching you assholes do shit that spontaneously goes between being really goddamn cool, like having somebody turn a ship into another ship and warp into it, which was way more awesome than they did in Rogue One. I'm just gonna say that.
I agree.
That there comes a point where the last general on the ship uses the ship as cover for the escaping mini ships, but Benicio del Toro rats them out, which I don't know. Did they say like on the open comm or whatever that they were deploying the ships?
I don't.
Because he tells them, it's like, oh yeah, run a stealth check and you'll find all these other ships out there. I'm gonna get paid and leave now. Bye. And he gets paid and leaves, and they find all the ships. But I don't remember if they said anything about that.
I think he heard Poe and the chick talking.
Maybe.
Or Poe and Finn talking.
I'm willing to suspend disbelief and say, like, okay, whatever. He probably heard that over the intercom or whatever. But, yeah, it turns out that they start hammering on the transport ships, and so the main admiral who's been playing the cards close to the chest, who's apparently a really great war hero that Poe knows about but didn't trust because she wouldn't share her tactics with him, proceeds to turn the big ship around and hit the hyperspace button straight into Snoke's ship and just shatter it and send the debris shredding every other ship in its wake. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
That was a really cool scene. And I was really happy with that. But then we still have another, like, 30 minutes of movie left.
Yeah, that's what
and it's like,
kind of threw me. I'm like...
I sort of got, like, a Transformers vibe. Where it's like, you've hit this climax 3 times now. Let's just end the fucking movie. And by the time it was all said and done, I'm just like, oh, thank God. Nothing's actually changed. Rey's still the good guy. Kylo Ren's still the bad guy. I didn't take any actual risks by jeopardizing or killing a main character. Hell, Han Solo got frozen in carbonite and you didn't know if he was going to come back for episode 6 when it came out.
Yeah.
I mean, that took a risk with that.
Yeah.
That could have been horrible if audiences looked at it and went, I'm sorry, this is Han Solo, the carbonite dead, no! No, burn it down! Sign a petition online, make them it's not real! But I never felt any peril for our heroes. I never once thought, oh, Finn or Poe or Rey are in any mortal danger. They're gonna come out of this just fine. And by the time Rey got to Snoke, the idea that Rey was going to turn and be the villain while Ben kind of did this inward reflection and turned to the good side was completely and totally gone. I'm just like, she's going to be the good guy, he's going to be the bad guy, let's wrap this up.
By the time she got to Snoke, I knew she wasn't going to turn because that clip they fucking spliced together in the fucking trailer to make it look like that's what was happening.
Yeah.
They already used half of that.
Yeah, they used the...
Then she was talking to Luke, not Kylo.
Yeah. And it's just like, let's just wrap this up already, kids. My ass is starting to fall asleep.
I was hoping for him that it would have been more of. I want more out of Kylo Ren, I guess, as a written.
You're not gonna get it.
He's very Anakin level crybaby.
You're not gonna get it. Just give up on that. I hate to say that, but you're just gonna have to completely and totally give up on that idea. That's a pipe dream at this point. It's just not gonna happen.
See, like, I don't know where the next movie is gonna go because
the good guys are gonna fight the bad guys, and the good guys are gonna blow something up. Probably another Death Star. Or something close to it. Because we had to bring in a Death Star cannon in this movie as well.
Well,
we couldn't just have it be like a quad laser set. Like they took it from Snoke's ship, like it's this giant auto laser or something. They dismantled and brought it down, and they're gonna blast the door off with that. No, it's like, oh, it's miniaturized Death Star. I'm just like, God, fuck the Death Star already.
I didn't hear them say it was a Death Star. I thought,
yeah, they used this giant laser battering ram.
I thought that's what they called it. It was
they
like
do, but then he describes it as like
it's
it's miniaturized Death Star cannon. And I'm just like, God, fuck, just fucking make it a laser cannon or what the fuck ever. Nobody cares anymore. I don't give a shit. I know I've spent a lot of this time talking shit on this movie, and while I didn't hate it, I do have problems with this movie. People are saying it's like, oh, it's the most perfect Star Wars movie ever. I'm like, no, it's not.
Somebody told me it
perfectly
was
adequate.
Somebody told me it was better than Empire, and I was like, I
knew. In the face.
No, I was behind the box office. I couldn't. There was bulletproof glass stopping me.
Well, like 1-inch punch your way out to them and make them eat their own teeth. Now
that's before I'd seen it, though.
This movie is perfectly fine. Just don't go in expecting anything to ultimately change, because it won't. You're gonna get the same good guys fight the bad guys, and the good guys win, but it doesn't look like they will, but they do in the end. And there's a whole lot of will they, won't they, but there's no actual tension to it.
Yeah, you have a little bit, but not a lot. Like, Kylo Ren immediately undoes everything, like, within 15 seconds.
Yeah, like, the biggest tension I felt was when Kylo Ren and Rey were fighting together against the Royal Guards after he killed Snoke. At that point, I was kind of like, well, maybe Kylo Ren might actually get injured real bad, and, like, Rey will drag him out and help him see the error of his ways or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I thought was going on, too,
but when everything was said and done, and it's just like, no, I'm taking over. You're going to help me, please. And I was just like, oh, okay, so we're not actually going to do anything to him.
Yeah. That's all I really...
That's about all I got. I don't know about you.
The only, like, thing I can finish off with is, like, you know, you're saying that, like, you know how the next movie's gonna go. I don't. And here's just why. Nobody likes Kylo Ren. Like, not a single fucking person.
I'm kind of with you on that.
There is no goddamn way I would follow him.
Right.
I would break off and start my own, like, other Empire, Rebellion, middle ground thing.
That might be something, if they try and...
Or if I was Hux, I'd be trying to kill him every chance I got.
Well, maybe we get some kind of, like, Looney Tunes-esque subplot in the next movie, where it's just Hux trying to make it look like an accident.
Yeah.
Like he spills soap outside of Kylo Ren's door as he walks out, and he just steps over it, and you see him lean around the corner. He's like, I'll get him next time.
Yeah. That's all I really have to say.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot. If you're interested if you like Star Wars, go see this movie. If you want to see something that almost breaks away from everything, but is unfortunately hampered by Disney probably looking at Rian Johnson and saying, we have to maintain the brand. then yeah, this is actually a really good movie to look at and say why Star Wars can never be anything more than what it is. Which is sad.
Yeah. Still pretty solid movie.
For Star Wars, yeah. So.
Alright guys, well, I guess that's gonna do it.
Be sure to like this video if you did. Hit that little subscribe and bell notification. And
share it around.
Share it around. And maybe next time Jared will tell you to do all this since it's his channel.
And then jump over to Sean's channel and watch him, sometimes me too, play video games.
You don't want me to hold your hand like Star Wars does?
Shut up, Sean.
Look at the lightsaber, Jared.
Shut up, Sean.
Ooh, lightsabers!
Bye.
The